Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. We are here. It is about to be the weekend, and we're going to have a good weekend. Hopefully, everyone is set to enjoy this coming weekend. Hopefully, you've had all of the stress and the issues and the concerns put up, tucked away in a box, and put them away and prepared to enjoy your weekend. I'm in the studio today with Mark Bassett, who seems to be a little bit confused and consumed with his phone. I'm always talking to young people, get off your phone! But he's over here with this. Mark, how are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing great. I was just kind of looking at the history of Memorial Day since I just got to run a show in front of me. And there's some things here I didn't realize, but I was just looking at that.
So we're going to talk about, the thing is, Mark, the way this works is that we have this conversation and then you don't spoil the lead-in.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Well, I was just trying to, make an excuse of why I was looking on my phone.
I got you.
Just a short update, though. I want to just follow from last week.
I got you. We're going to get there.
Okay,
we're going to get there.
All right.
I want to also give a shout out. We're going to say hi to Jonathan, who is the voice in the sky as well. Good. How you doing, Jonathan? Hello. Jonathan, how has your week been? Yes.
I have an idea for a show.
Okay.
At some point, I think we should have a show, or at least a part of a show, about how the wedding planning is going and the trials and tribulations of wedding planning.
Jonathan's soon-to-be wife, his fiance, hates this show.
Does she?
Yes.
She doesn't hate this show.
She hates it. No, I'm just joking.
She doesn't like hearing me complain about it.
About wedding planning?
No,
about the show.
Oh, okay. All right.
Are you okay, Mark? Can we move forward?
We can move forward.
Okay. Yeah. but no, we'll go ahead because that was a part of one of the things that I wanted to do, Mark. On last week, if you saw last week's show, we had a very, I think, a powerful show, and Mark was sharing his testimony of just really how God's power, how it moved, and he experienced a miracle. I'm going to accept it as a miracle. He accepted it as a miracle. And Mark is going to give us an update. Mark, tell us a little bit in brief what happened, and then just kind of give us an update on what took place.
Real briefly, one of my son's wives was about 7 months pregnant. Her uterus ruptured. They unfortunately lost the baby. Lillian was her name. And my daughter-in-law had a massive cardiac arrest. So I had CPR for about 55 minutes. They didn't expect her to survive. This is about a month ago at this point, almost exactly. And kind of the update from there. And if she did survive, they expected her to probably have brain damage given the prolonged period of time where her heart wasn't operating on its own. The update is, frankly, tomorrow she's being released to go home, which is beyond. No one expected that.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's God. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Mark, so many people reached out to me after hearing your story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people reached out to me concerning that story, and they were just really blessed by your faith, the testimony of everything, and how God really showed up for you and your family in the way that He did. And they were moved by the compassion. They were moved by compassion by hearing you be so open and honest. They thought that you were very vulnerable in a very good way.
Thank you.
Yeah. So those of you who are listening, we certainly thank you for those comments. And everywhere the people are like, hey, I shared the show with someone else who was going through a similar situation and hoping that it would give them some encouragement and some hope. So
amongst the miracle, it was, again, a kind of an epiphany for me. Intellectually, I always know that you decide whether you're happy or not. But despite that, I'm frequently not happy because I'm not focused. And when you're focused on looking for blessings, even amongst the most tragic of tragedies, it is truly amazing how many blessings you'll find. And so as you go through really tough times in your life, I would just encourage everybody to, accept the tragedy, but look closely around you for the blessings, because you will find the blessings. And it really changes how you walk through terrible events.
Jonathan, do you think that this world, and particularly, I think everyone, I can't even say particularly young people, do you think that we take a lot of things for granted?
Oh, 100%. And that's kind of what we were talking about last week. But is the miraculous nature of just life and how God guides you. You don't see it until you look back, because you're, at least for me, I'm always taking what's right in front of me, and that's something that I've been working on a lot recently too, is let's look at where is God working right now in my life, so I don't have to look back and see it. I can try and find it right now.
I think people are just so blessed. And the people in this country, and I think young people in this country, without a doubt, there are a lot of issues and problems in this country. But as a person who's been all over the world, I still want to just reassure young people that as broken as some things are and as scary as some things are, this is still a great country with way more positives than negatives. And yes, these times are tough. But again, I ask you to just go back, 1918 to 1948 and look what the world went through, or, the early 60s to early 70s and the turmoil, the Vietnam War, the Nixon thing, the civil rights movements. A lot of our major cities were on fire. And so the world's been through tough times before. The world gets out of tough times, and times will be better.
Yeah. So speaking of young people and encouraging young people, I want to give a shout out to this year's graduates of 2026. Remember we were in school? I remember I was in school, and I remember they would always say in 2020, and I thought we would all be flying around on hovercrafts and all of these crazy things. Not far off. But this graduating class of 2026, where do you think they are, and what do you hope for them? Because this class, this isn't 2020. We already had our 2020 graduating class, but this was a class that is kind of coming off the heels of COVID. They're graduating. What are you thinking, Jonathan, and hope for this?
My sister graduates this year, and I don't know. I think they've got their heads screwed on pretty straight.
Really? Okay.
I'm
Good.
I'm really hopeful about at least the young, the graduate seniors that I've talked to. They are a lot more aware than I think I was coming out of high school.
Of what?
Of the situation that they're moving into. Of, I don't know. There's just this level-headedness that a lot of people don't have, and I think it does come partially from COVID, is they got rocked in the middle of their educational career, and I think that's kind of what we're going to see for a lot of these kids for the next few years anyway. But they kind of got over that, and now it's, okay, on to the next thing. They've overcome an adversity.
Yeah.
They've moved through a trouble, so now they know what that's like. They've got that under their belt, where a lot of kids that are graduating high school haven't had that.
Okay.
One of my concerns, and we've had this discussion before, I'm so old now, I don't interact with a lot of high school students, or any high school students, frankly, but I would say younger, and I've got 7 kids, so I've got a spectrum of ages from 40 to 26. One of my concerns for the younger segment, say in their 20s and early 30s, is the lack of kind of resilience of tough situations. And and so it's because life in a lot of ways has been so easy for them. They haven't had to deal with a lot of adversity, and everything's a tragedy. Everything's this monumental mountain to try to climb, and it's just not, so.
Well, whatever the cause, it is the step of something new. Congratulations to all of you that are out there that are graduating. I just think that it is a very unique world to enter into as a graduating senior into this new world. But I hope that you all will carpe diem, seize the moment, and make the most of this. It is the beginning of the rest of your lives. Use these days, these moments, these weeks to kind of reflect over your past 12 years and really put a plan together for your future success. I want to continue. This is Memorial Day weekend, and I know Jonathan hates when I put dates on things, but it is Memorial Day weekend. It could be Memorial Day weekend of 2025, 2024, any weekend. No, but I'm wondering, what are you guys planning for this holiday weekend? Anything special? Because this is the official kickoff of summer.
I'm having a small cookout on Monday.
Okay.
You guys want to you want to join?
You got is Mary making those the baked beans?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might come by for a plate of baked beans. Hey, I'm gonna tell y'all this now. Normally, black folks don't do potlucks, but Mary did these baked beans, and she put the meat in them. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
But they were delicious. So you're doing you are gonna do the traditional
small little cookout.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan?
I've got family gatherings all weekend. There's a wedding Saturday, and then there's a graduation party. My sister and my cousin are both graduating, so
Are they throwing
on
a joint?
Tuesday?
on Sunday.
Okay.
So they're having a joint party.
Joint
for
party.
that.
They're graduating on Sunday?
No, they're-
the graduation party is on.
Oh, the
Sunday.
party's on
Are
Sunday.
you with
cousin-
us, Kareem? Here, come on.
my cousin already graduated. My sister's graduating like in the middle of summer because she's homeschooled.
Okay, all right. Well, for me, I'm hoping to get some ribs from somewhere. I got my baked beans, so looking for some ribs. I know that my rib person, when you in the black community, you got the rib person. I told you this before, Mark.
Yep.
Everybody has their dish that they make.
Yep.
So, Mr. Meredith or Uncle Jeff.
I was going to ask, do you keep that person a secret? As like, this is my rib person. No one else can have them.
It's the family rib person.
It is. Everybody knows, and so I'm blessed to have two rib people, and one person thinks that they're my rib person, Frank. But Frank, you're growing.
Who, Frank Sanders?
Frank, yes.
Oh, he's too young to be a rib person.
Why did you? Thank you. Right?
Yeah.
It takes some time. You got to age that process.
I mean, like in a sushi chef, that's hard to say. I mean, you got to work on just the rice for 10 years before you can be a sushi chef. Frank, it's a little presumptuous to think you can be a ribs person this soon.
To all my people out there, Mark said this. It takes some time. Like you young brothers out there with the grill, I respect it. I appreciate the grind, the desire, but it takes some time to become the rib person. So I have two rib people. One of them is I call him Uncle Jeff. You put Frank's whole name. It could have been any Frank. Now it's definitely
Sorry, Frank.
Mark said it, Frank. But my Uncle Jeff. Now this is what's funny because Frank's like, How can I compete with Uncle Jeff's ribs? He has the floating ribs. He has this contraption where his ribs actually move and they carousel around.
That's serious ribbing right there.
Uncle Jeff is the
rib
rib
that
master.
over open flame or a pit or what? How does he do it?
It is. I think it's an open flame in a pit, but the ribs are actually floating as they go around, so he can get a few dozen on it at a particular time, and then on the other side, he's got place for wings and chicken and brats. And
we're not allowed to record these shows at lunchtime anymore.
Is he using propane or is he using like briquettes of some sort?
He used briquettes and wood chips and flavored woods.
Oh wow, I mean, he's serious.
He takes it serious.
Yeah.
So he is the rib man. But if he's not doing ribs, and I think he put the order in, everybody had to get the ribs to him at a certain time. You had to clean them yourself.
You got to bring your own.
You got to bring them. Because you got to think I come from a big family.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do this, it's going to take some time. But Frank, I shout out. I'm going to come by, get some ribs, young man. I appreciate it. But Uncle Jeff is the rib guy.
I'd like to try some of Frank's ribs.
You should.
Yeah. I think he needs to shoot some my way.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure you get him this with the baked beans. And some ribs.
Yeah.
Maybe I should bring you. This is what we do, a little piece of all of the ribs.
Yeah.
And then I got my guy Craig Meredith out there who comes in a real close second to Uncle Jeff. He does a great job of making tenderisms a real thing. And so he's out there. He's on the grill, getting the ribs ready for him as well. We break them over, and he takes care of everything. I don't have to do anything, just take them. So that's what we're doing. That is the central part. I just want some good ribs on that day.
So this is a whole family thing?
And some macaroni and cheese. We used to do the whole family thing, but life is changing. Like, life is lifing. And getting together with family, even family that's here, is a changing dynamic that doesn't happen very often.
Everyone's got their own lives.
Mark, you know that you got 27 kids.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're not even in the state, so it's impossible at that point. So.
Yeah, so hopefully you are having an amazing Memorial Day weekend, but I did want to give a little bit of history. And Mark, you were talking about this. You were saying you learned something about Memorial Day. What was that?
Well, I just didn't understand the roots, frankly. I'd never thought about it, and so I was, what you put here, and I'm going to let you share what you put, but I was just checking out, like I just Googled like the history of Memorial Day just to kind of see what I saw. And, there's, as you'll talk about, there's actually kind of debate on like where did it really start.
Yeah.
And there's multiple cities that had things that kind of morphed into this. And
So the Congressional Black Caucus, and I think this was probably back in like 2013, I tried to look for the article. I could not find the article, but I did look at some other places. In 2013, the Congressional Black Caucus, they released an article on the beginnings of Memorial Day weekend and what it was for and what it was meant. And they were talking about it was really initially done in the United States to celebrate black slaves who had been a part of their own emancipation, coming from the thought that black slaves were not freed by Confederacy, but they played a vital part of their freedom and fighting for their freedom. And so it was initially done they called it Decorators Day. And what they did is they laid wreaths on those soldiers who were part of the fight in the Civil War to commemorate and celebrate their part in the celebration of this particular day. And over time, it morphed into a celebration of all individuals who had given their lives in some way or were in service and played that part. But it was just an interesting fact that I thought that we could throw out there to share with you all. And if it takes you into going down the rabbit hole and taking a deeper dive, that's exactly what we aim to do, is to make you just aware of the things that are happening in the community and in the world. All right, so Mark, you gave me a call. We got 6 minutes here, but when on the other side of this, we're going to talk about, and I titled this show "The United States of America versus Black America, Black Descendants of Slaves," and we're going to talk about what I mean by that, because there's a couple of things, two cases or two situations in particular that I think are very telling for Black America. But before we do this, Mark, you sent me a couple links this past week. It's prom season.
The prom season.
Absolutely.
Which was like an eye-opener to me. I couldn't believe it.
Prom season.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell me what you were watching.
Well, I was just scrolling through Instagram, which I do occasionally when I've got a little bit of downtime, and if one popped up of, black proms, which I didn't realize was a thing.
A thing. You didn't really?
No. Well, I thought it was just prom.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
I got you.
I know what the prom looks like in Midland, but just the kind of the crazy amount of money in some cases, and the production that was being done for proms in black communities
For high school
students, renting Lamborghinis, guys walking out in custom-made tuxes with huge wads of cash, just the crazy kind of expense, plus just all the focus and attention on these kids on what is something that is really, in the greater scheme of life, pretty non-serious, inconsequential event. And it was just, and then
people can't move forward with their life because they had a bad prom, Mark.
Yeah, and as you know, once you stop on one, then you start getting them all.
Absolutely.
And a camel, and it was just crazy.
Well, the big to do.
And so I asked, does this go on in Saginaw? Because I've never heard of it or seen it.
Are you going to you asked me, are you going to these? Yeah. So they're called send-offs, right?
Okay.
And so they have these send-offs, and they are a real thing. I think it's the most crazy thing in the world. When I was a kid, when I went to prom, what prom was, you went to the tuxedo store,
rented a tux,
and you got the color and the combination that was the one, right? Yep. And $100 and something for a tux, maybe $150 your parents give you for good meals and whatever you're gonna do, whatever. But we also came home for prom. Parents were parents, and they didn't let their kids stay up all night and hang out all night.
Yeah.
So you came home after prom, right? And that has just changed. And so this new thing, flashing money, Lamborghinis, the one for this year is, there was a young lady, Kiki, shout out to Kiki. I love you, Kiki. That's my heart. She came in, their theme was Enchanted Garden. So everyone came in these beautiful. Now, what I will say at Saginaw United, their prom was, they understood the assignment. Beautiful gowns, tasteful, covered up finally for this year.
Looked like they were going to a strip joint.
Yeah,
or
no,
like
we didn't go there this year. So the edits to their was beautiful, beautiful looking, both the men and the women. But she came and she was in a pumpkin shaped carriage.
Oh boy,
pulled by horses.
Okay,
horse and carriage, and I was sitting here like. But we went in. There were Maybachs. There were Bentleys.
Really.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
And this is my take on this, because so I had a senior, Mark. There are a young man that I basically adopted, and so I'm helping with prom and doing all these things. Mm-hmm. And I want you. Okay, let's be happy. And I want to do. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
For parents who are out there. And you give 10, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, however many, so that they can flash it crazy. To rent a vehicle that costs more than most folks' homes, and
Probably
you're
more than they make in a handful of years.
right. I'm just thinking these are
like
young
a Lamborghini
kids.
can be a $500,000 car.
Do we understand how many horsepowers that we're putting behind for these kids? This is crazy, right? You're renting them for $500 for a single day. Insurance, I'm sure, on them is probably $1,000 to $1,500 just to take it off for a day. I think, like, what are we teaching in terms of a value system?
Right.
But a part of that problem is this, Mark, and I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this. A part of this is this. Most of these kids don't have a plan after high school.
Right.
And so this is their parents think this is their, prom is the big thing.
Right.
But the idea should be prom should be the end to a new beginning. And so what is the plan after? And so I'm thinking, like, why not invest some of that money toward a skill trade or
Right.
toward college
Education.
or
Yeah.
towards
And
education?
there are a few reels that would pop up of an African American person.
Yes, and we're not
basically
doing
telling,
this.
Why are we doing this?
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And so we're breeding young people who are so materialistic that they place a greater value on impressing people who will mean absolutely nothing 6 months away from this prom date, and really putting that this is something that is very important. So we're throwing money. When I say good money after bad, I don't care if you like it. But if that's what you do, that's what you do. People have their own right and can do whatever they want. But as for me in my house, like, we're going to have a great day. We're going to dress well. I think it's great to see kids have a great time. But I think that we have to pull back on some of the materialism. We have to begin to teach people that enjoying that moment. It's not about getting drunk and being plastered and showing cash and all of those things. But it's about having a great time. And I do want to end this moment, thoughts and prayers for the family who lost an individual at prom, which should have been a great
gosh.
celebration,
Yeah. Horrible.
ended in a night of tragedy. So my thoughts and prayers go with that family. And this is never an easy time. But I hope that all of you that are out there are really understanding that when you leave the house, you are not safe. And so take care of yourselves and each other. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more United Shades of Gray.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem. We're back with more United Shades of Gray, conversations of race in America. All right, so our conversation today, there are two things, and I know that we're probably not going to get to both of them, but I'm going to just throw them out there, and we'll begin with the first. The first one is, and I titled the segment for this show, the United States of America versus the Descendants of Slaves. And I took out African-American descendants. Normally it's called ADUS, African-American Descendants of Slaves, because I've never been an African, so I've always been American. And in my personal opinion, and it's just me talking, that black folks in America are some of the most American folks that we possibly can have. So it is the United States versus the black descendants of slaves. What does that sound like, Mark, when I say it that way?
Oh,
Does it sound like a lawsuit?
well, potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say this because there are two things that are out there that are really big conversations in Black America right now. And the first one is, we talked about this a little bit, about the gutting of, I think, Section 2 of the 1965 Civil Rights Voting Act. And that act, and are you guys familiar with this particular?
No, I'm really not. Again, as you know, I'm fairly apolitical.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan?
You mean with this situation with Louisiana?
Yes.
Yeah, I've read up on it.
Okay. So, and I knew that Jonathan would be. He's always
he's
such a
on
good
top
thing.
of it. I'm continue to be impressed by Jonathan. Jonathan, if I was still working, I'd hire you in a heartbeat, man.
Well, Jonathan does do the news.
Yeah.
So some of this stuff is a part of what he does, but I
Yeah.
think he's kind of wired to be kind of
He
informed.
is,
Am I correct by that, Jonathan?
I like going down rabbit holes on different things. So this just came up, and I'm like, I asked why, and so I spent a couple hours digging into why, because
Let's start
it was
there.
interesting.
Let's start with the why, Jonathan. What is it that? What's your understanding of what's going on? Like, just kind of share a framework of what your thoughts are.
So kind of the background on it was
And you don't see Jonathan. He's that great voice in the sky. It's not God. It's actually Jonathan.
what?
We need to invest in another camera for Jonathan.
No, it's fine. I'm good.
Go
I've got
ahead,
a face for radio. Kind of the background to it was there was a lawsuit during an election in Louisiana saying that the fact that there was one majority black voting district was against the Voting Rights Act because there needed to be a second one at least to give kind
Equal
of
representation.
Yes.
the kind of idea that they said was part of the Voting Rights Act was that there was access to their preferred candidate.
Right.
Minorities need to be given access to their preferred candidate is kind of how it is laid
to
out.
be able to provide that individual and allow them to be a part of the framework.
Well,
for
that
making those
implies
laws.
that people are voting by race, in essence.
And
is
that's
that what it would imply?
Well, and
And
65.
So what
Right, I
happened?
understand. Yep.
What happened was, the courts basically said, "Okay, we're putting a hold on this case, but it'll probably go forward." And basically the government went, "It'll probably go forward, and we'll probably be forced to use the maps that the plaintiffs proposed. So we're just going to make our own map that includes this second district to be compliant." And then that got appealed, taken up to the Supreme Court. That new map got a lawsuit against it, taken up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, the fact that you made that new map based on racial grounds is in itself racist.
Right.
Can't do that. Take it back to what it originally was, or come up with a new map that isn't based on racial gerrymandering.
That was the language that the Supreme Court voted down 6-3. The understanding of the unspoken part of this, or is the spoken part, what has been put in place now was before they could base that decision that this is a racist practice based upon the outcome.
Right.
And now it has to be based upon the intent. And I think that is the nuanced approach that is so vitally important to understand. And now you basically have to say that when this law was put in place, that the thinking under the law at the time of the person who came up with the legislation was racist in order to prove that that's racist.
Right.
And all of us understand that we cannot prove a thought is racist. And so they move from outcome and impact to that you have to prove your case. The burden of proof has to be greater. And so what has happened in this process is, and so this is why we've seen Texas and California and now Virginia.
Well, I mean, to me, I tend to be a cynic here.
Yeah.
And especially with this administration, this all started with the realization, like, oh my God, we could definitely lose the midterms at the congressional level.
And so what happened, Mark?
Trying to gerrymander certain districts in certain states, and then Democratic states would say, well, if you want to do that, we can do that too.
So I'm going to put a hold on that.
Yep.
The whole back and forth gerrymandering thing started in Texas.
Yeah.
This was Louisiana situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Was
it started
going
in
on
Texas.
already.
Going on.
But
Yeah,
there's been a knock-on effect because Texas started to try
But
to
this
gerrymander.
it's all the same. It's the same issue in essence.
And I don't, again, I tend to not look at, maybe because I'm in the race of a majority forever, I don't tend to look at these issues as kind of driven by racism or race. It's driven by the wanting to maintain power.
Well,
and so,
absolutely. But this is the thing. So the reason why it's so important.
Real quick, can I hop in?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And to back up your point there, Mark, when that original lawsuit the courts put it on hold and the government said, we're going to redraw our own districts, there were theories, not proven, but theories that the reason they drew their own districts was because it would protect certain candidates that were incumbent from what the plaintiffs' maps had laid out.
Well, so understanding that, and it was to hold on to power. The purpose was that. So the understanding of this, you got to think in 1965, they were fighting for the right to vote, and then after getting the right to vote, they had to deal with Jim Crow.
Yep.
They had to deal with all of the other issues for voter suppression, the poll taxes, things that are important to understand. And so even redistricting at that time to make sure that, you can vote, but your vote in this community, you're going to vote way over there, which is not where you live.
Right.
And so your vote is going to be diluted. And so that is the understanding framework of this. And so when they talk about this, those outcomes would always come. You could vote. And that's where that sentiment in Black America that my vote does not count, that's kind of where that kind of bred from. Mm-hmm. And we see it being taken into account. We have had great strides with saying, hey, representation matters in a state. If your state is made up, we are going to draw, initially the idea was to draw the districts so that people have a proportionality in terms of their ability to have a voice.
Right.
And so I think that's what happened. So with this new one, it basically means that we're not going to use race And so we see a transitioning from race to party. And so Democratic individuals tend to, at this point, be largely Democratic.
Right.
I mean, black folks tend to be largely Democratic. And so it's the same conversation, just changing.
Right. But there's basically how many Republicans live in this district, and let me draw it so registered Republicans are going to dominate that district.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, as Jonathan said, it's really about controlling and retaining power.
Now, hold on, because this redistricting and this whole conversation in Louisiana was not based around Democrats or Republicans. It was based on census data of racial demographics.
Sure,
Absolutely.
that's how it was originally done. But basically, I think the only reason they're going after it is really to kind of redraw the district so they can get more votes.
Yes,
that's-
Yeah.
absolutely. But
And the first
Go ahead.
the first shot of this was from Democrats bringing that lawsuit saying there need to be two districts with a majority
Neither
black
side
population.
both sides are guilty.
Okay,
of this kind
at
of
the
stuff,
end of
frankly.
this, and this
Yeah.
is my point to Black
Yeah.
America
Yeah.
and to white America,
Yeah.
that neither party really purports or really presents the issues that are important to Black America. And when it becomes a Republican Democrat, we understand when you look at the Democratic Party at this time. Before we were the party of Lincoln, with that shift with Goldwater and the moving of. We're trying to preserve power in the South after the Civil Rights Movement. During that period of time, it became blacks shifted from Republican to Democrats.
Yep.
So the idea of it is that blacks have been seen in many of the Democratic bases as a voting bloc, essentially, largely as we have always voted. We voted in terms of the Democratic since the 60s, moved toward a Democratic base. I consider myself an independent because I don't think that any party speaks to the real interests of Black America. But what this particular thing does is this particular situation now makes it more difficult to say, hey, this is unjust because it is disproportionate in terms of its serving of folks who are able to be elected. Now, with that being said, it is, as Jonathan said, it is about maintaining power. And as we look at this and we look at the rights, and I look at my grandparents who initially did not have the right to vote. My grandfather was born in 1919. My grandmother, 6 years after that. They lived in a time where voting was not a thing that black folks did. I knew my great-grandmother who died at the age of 101 years old, Mama Pearl, down in, we came from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Maringouin, if you know it. And so there was a time when they grew up without that right to vote. And they were part of marches and movements to be able to vote. And so to see, and I said this at the beginning of this thing, that there has been a concerted effort to dilute the power of Black America, to dilute the impact of economic ability for Black America. And so when we look at this, it once again begins that voter suppression. Now, there's one thing that I think that Black America and Brown America, because if they do it to black folks, we've seen the pattern. It will be black folks first. It will then be brown folks. It then will be women. And we see this current administration has an attack set aside for women. They should be in the kitchen having babies, going to church on Sundays. And then it will be those who are part of the LGBT community. This has been the consistent play. And in my opinion, I think it's dangerous when we begin to do these things because the sanctity of our vote and the belief that our vote has an equal vote or equal standing with everyone else is a very important part of American history. So we're going to see what takes place. That means that folks got to vote no matter where they are in record number.
Well, I'm going to vote midterm, which I've never done.
Okay.
Because I'm just so, and I'm going to do something I've never done.
What's
which
that?
is vote straight line party.
Really?
And I'm a registered Republican.
Yes.
I'm going to vote straight line Democrat.
Really?
Because I'm just so repulsed with what the Republican Party has become. And again, put Trump to the side.
Yeah.
He is who he is. I've known who he is since 2016. I haven't voted for him once. I'm just so disgusted with the Republican Party at large that they refuse to stand up and take a stand on almost anything against this guy. I won't vote for a single one of them.
Wow.
I refuse.
Wow. Well, speaking of which,
Well,
go ahead, Mark. Jonathan.
And the people that do stand up and say something, I'm looking at
They get
Thomas
eaten by their
Massie,
own.
They get
Primary.
destroyed.
Yeah.
In the primary.
So we're looking at that, and so when I look at this, these are things that are these are real conversations in Black America, like what, the voting rights.
You got to
Act,
get out and vote.
You got to vote.
You got to vote in record numbers, man.
This is a reason to
Yeah.
vote even more
Yeah.
than to not vote. I agree
Yeah.
with you, Mark.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, we love to talk about reparations in this room. And folks say there's no need for black folks who have suffered and endured amazing tragedies in this world. Slavery, building and not being able to get it. Patents, not being able to get the patents stole by their white owners. Building Washington, D.C., and the owners being paid for the use of the slaves, but the slaves not receiving any benefit. We have now entered into a place that number 4547, I call them both names. He has now, we know that there was a lawsuit that he had posed against the IRS for illegally accessing and releasing his IRS taxes, and which normally don't presidents usually do by themselves, release their IRS information?
Typically, historically, they have. I don't think they have to, but historically, I don't know.
But they have, historically. I think it was kind of like a performer, kind of they've done it. So anyways, there was a lawsuit for I think, $10 billion.
Something like that.
That was out there. And so it was going to one of the federal courts, and the judge was going to make a ruling. And I think her remarks in leading up to that gave the understanding that she was going to deny it, strike down the case, and throw it out. And so before that happened, Mr. Trump, President Trump, who has appointed in the place of Pam Bondi, who he put aside, I think it was in February, has now appointed
Tom Blanche,
who used to be his personal defense attorney, to the acting role now, and has decided to settle with his former personal attorney, who now sits in that position. And a part of the settlement, he's not taking any money personally.
No, he's not. But he also can't be investigated. His taxes can't be, in essence,
can never be investigated.
Right. I mean, it's just crazy stuff.
Never be brought up charges from the IRS or part of this. He and his family.
Yeah.
And in addition to that,
it'll be interesting to the next president, if they're a Democrat, can they just write an executive order that tears this thing up? I mean,
I'm sure there'll be appeals.
Yeah.
But it is the audacity of the nature.
Yeah.
And so also with that, there is a slush fund of this fund that has been created for all of the people who have been wrongly accused and abused and have suffered harm from the United States government and have been hurt in such a way that they've been impugned, and they should receive reparations is the word I'm going to use.
Because that's specific to the Biden administration's Department of Justice being weaponized?
Yes, being weaponized against them.
So it's got to be very specific to that.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that
again,
means...
I try to avoid these things because it's on the surface so morally repugnant that we would allow this thing. I don't even want to read it.
I'm laughing, but I'm laughing from crying because there's nothing funny about this. But in essence, what the man who has said reparations isn't a thing that in a country that has struggled to understand why black folks who have been impugned by the government, because it has always been rulings by the Supreme Court that have caused the greatest harm to black folks, and it's always the race has always been in the policy. So we understood reparations for Japanese Americans in the internment. We understood that for victims of Holocaust. We understood it for all of these other parties and for Jews during Holocaust and things of those natures. But they could never understand or wrap their heads around the idea for reparations for black America because we've never owned slaves. But now we see the same situation in light speed.
I would argue this is not the same situation.
I would. What's the difference, Mark? What would you say the difference is?
Well, to me, these, to basically just give someone from January 6th money.
Who are overthrowing.
Basically, who are committing a crime.
Yes.
Is just so hard to wrap your head around.
It's not the same in that regard.
Yeah, that's not.
Absolutely.
It's not, nothing like it. I mean, it's just like I said, so morally repugnant that we would actually consider that's like the attempt to rewrite history of what happened.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy to me.
So, Mark, in many instances, and I'm going to say this because this has been the take in many situations for African Americans across the world. History being revisioned, or a new revision of history. We call it in the community a whitewashing of history, changing of the narratives and changing of those facts. I agree. It is very different in the fact that slaves were here against their will, but they were performing a service. Mm-hmm. These are individuals who thought that they owned the Capitol and could do what they want and essentially hurt officers in that period of time.
Hurt people.
But it's not just the J6ers. There's the My Pillow guy and
with all of his friends, basically,
and the Proud Boys leader who are all saying, "Hey, we're getting ready." I think the Proud Boy guy said,
Rudy Giuliani, I'm sure, will be looking for some money.
Because I've been hurt by this government and impugned, and now they should be paid back for this government harming them.
Right.
And in essence, it's mind-blowing to me as a descendant of slaves that our country does not understand reparations as it relates to Black Americans, but we could understand reparations as it relates to criminals who have
I think that's not a fair statement because I think most Americans don't agree with this. I would believe.
No, and I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I don't think that most Americans would.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a whole Republican Party that's not standing up against it.
Well, that's a different issue. That's back to I'm not going to vote for a single Republican because you
refuse
refuse to do what. At some point, your principles matter, morals matter, ethics matter. At some point, you need to sacrifice yourself and say something for the good of this country.
And so you have said what I'm about to say, Mark. Mark, you correctly have stated that when people are doing things that are immoral or corrupt or don't align with your values,
right?
You don't just get mad, but you use your power of your voice and your vote. And so that is what I would say to Black America. You have to begin to understand that we said this about Trump a little while ago, President Trump, that whenever someone stands up against him, they get demolished, they get primary, they use the power of the vote to kill their political abilities or their future. And I say the same thing, that it comes down to voting. Stop voting people in who do not have your interests. Yeah. Stop voting in people who say that they understand how a particular group should be able to have a benefit, but they don't understand the legacy that exists for the rest of the world off of the votes of Black America. When we talk about conversations of race in America, sometimes they are not always. We don't agree. We aren't always happy, and they are heated conversations. This isn't a heated conversation because I think, Mark, you're right. I think America understands that this is wrong. So now the question comes for all of you that are out there listening: what do we do in response? Do we just say, "Oh, this is wrong," and continually allow these things? Because what has happened is we say, "This is horrible," and we move on to the next thing.
Well, there's a new kind of chaotic situation that comes. There's no time to focus on any one issue because next week there's some other crazy thing going on. I mean, this was a guy that was elected on improving prices, no more wars. And what do we got? Higher prices and more wars. I mean, it's just crazy to me.
And so my thing is this. I think it's crazy that we are living in a time that we have allowed so much power to be given to one arm of our government. And I challenge us. This is Memorial Weekend. A lot of people have died for the freedoms and the rights that we have. And so during this time, I would challenge you all to think about, is this the country? Is this what our forefathers and our framing fathers thought of? Is this what you believe the Constitution speaks to? And as we embrace this Memorial Weekend and we think about those sacrifices and we're laying down wreaths and ribbons and bows, let's also think about how do we respond with the power that is essential to every American with the vote. Mark, I am going to applaud you, not because you're going to vote against the Republican Party, but you're doing something that I wish more people would do, that they would really think about where is their moral compass, that they would consider that in a vote, and they would realize that what I might want in a moment, I may not get, but making a decision that has an impact that is beyond just today is most important. And sometimes making a statement is much bigger than what it seems like in that particular moment. 30 seconds, Mark. What do you want to say in our closing?
Oh, well, have a great Memorial Day. Spend time with your family. Enjoy your family, because you just never know what's going to happen.
And
so
Mark,
enjoy the moment.
Your story tells us that better than anything else. Jonathan, you got anything really quick?
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day. We hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Embrace yourselves. As Mark said, let's love each other more than we ever have before, because you never know what tomorrow has to offer. Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you all. Grace and peace.